Ladies and gentlemen, we renew our pleasure to welcome you to today's edition of Press Hour. For unity to be real, it must stand the severest strain without breaking. This quote is from Mahatma Gandhi of India, that we all know as popular as he was, and his works live on. That's why we are still quoting him. And under this quote, Gandhi also castigates revenge and warns proponents of an eye for an eye, saying that an eye for an eye only ends up making the whole world blind. I don't think that with what Gandhi is still teaching us so many years, almost about a century, more than a century, half a century ago, we will want to go for an eye for an eye. As he says, it ends up only making the whole world blind. Why will you go to take up someone's eye? Our topic for today on Press Hour is unity, national unity. What are the pillars that can be used to make Cameroon a better world to be in future? That's what we're going to be talking about, and the people who will propose those pillars for us on the set, Press Hour set today. We begin with you, Isidore Barcom, who is a researcher. He is also a member of the civil society. We are glad to have you on Press Hour set today.
It's a pleasure. I'm also glad to be there, especially in the midst of my elders like Prof. Wilibor Zengwa, Dr. Kalitus, and Tengan Lucas. I'm glad.
You should be glad. It's not for nothing that I've taken almost all the generations, the younger, the middle, and the older generation. Yeah, you understand exactly why I brought you. And just next to you, you just said it, we have Fru Jonathan. Fru Jonathan is an elite of the Northwest. He is also an elite of some clans in the Central region. Well, he will tell us as we go on. He is a chargé de mission of the CPD Central Committee, the Deputy General Manager, Director General of Sonamin. He may want to tell you that he has other portfolios. You're welcome to Press Hour today, sir.
Thank you very much, Kilian. It's my pleasure to be with you once more, and happy to share my ideas with the eminent personalities you've brought to this program today. Thank you.
You're most welcome. And Professor Wilibor Zengwa, whom I thought I knew, I don't recognize him again in this place. I almost ran away when I saw him coming. Prof, who is a political scientist, who is a historian, seasoned historian, and today I see him as a traditional ruler. Prof, you have something to tell us? You have been away from Press Hour for some time. I think this is what you are preparing to bring for us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm always glad to share the panel with eminent personalities, and I'm glad to say that we are going to have something to share. I'm Zengwa in many colors. Let me say I'm not a traditional ruler, but I am a grand prince of my community who has powers over the land. So I have the difference between myself and Ndifon is what I carry in the cap. I mean the difference in what we carry in the hat. So I'm a grand prince. I'm not a fond of the largest community in Agam, the Iwumbong family.
I like to see you this way. Now I can still greet you without saying bear, as you have clarified. Thank you very much for that clarification. You're also clarifying those who are looking at us wherever they are hooked on to CRTV, this program Press Hour. And I'm going to take the last panelist. It's no other person than Lucas Tening Chefo, who is the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Reporter newspaper. We are glad to have you here, Lucas.
It's always a pleasure being with you, Kilian. It's always a pleasure trying to share with Cameroonians, see how we can put our own chip of the building block to build our nation. So I'm very happy that at least our exchanges here today will add one chip on the building block of nation building.
That is exactly what our mission is here and anywhere we go. Ladies and gentlemen, let us start with the first things that set us into the debate, and it is the press review. In press review, we look at what the papers talked about in the week that just ended. Yoti Kalele Songe read the newspapers for us. Yoti.
News on Cameroon's 51st National Day celebration caught a lot of media attention this week. The papers were keen on activities leading up to May 20. Municipal updates, talks of the Minister of Youth Affairs restating the government's commitment to support youth while launching week-long civil activities in Tuba. The Guardian Post projects the Youth Affairs Minister urging the population of the Northwest region to work for peace. Cameroon Tribune on its part spotlights civil-military activities in an article captioned "The Army and the Nation," disclosing humanitarian gestures embarked on in the domains of health, education and public works. The same paper captures the 20th May First Communion at the Unity and National Integration Village. Meanwhile, Cameroon Insider has the nation praying for peace. A much-needed serenity readers are made not only to ponder on, but preach as well, considering the xenophobic comments that filled newspaper columns in the course of the week. Cameroon Tribune highlights the reactions of some Southwest elite following comments against non-Southwest indigents. And it so happens that the Southwest region just had a historic Peace and Development Forum. Cameroon Echoes features a satisfied population encouraged to prioritize a peace development roadmap and living together. As if in Q, Cameroon Insider informs readers of the new development blueprint adopted. The Median further emphasizes on the Southwest elite committing to recover control of the region's destiny. Meantime, the Prime Minister's special envoy at the Peace Forum can be seen inspiring hope and resilience in municipal updates. The Herald Tribune concurs, stating that the Prime Minister's message to the people inspires hope. According to the Chronicle Times, it's a fresh impetus, especially after being challenged to shape the course of peace and development, writes the Guardian Post. A vision the Northwest Regional Assembly has already caught. Rebranding for all to count recounts the news. The print press also disclosed to newspaper lovers that 2 dreaded Ambazonia generals and 16 fighters in Ndah division of the Southwest region have surrendered. News that spurs the population to commend the Ndah SDO's efficient administrative efforts, Cameroon Echoes highlights. Newspapers equally had several articles on Touristic Express back in business, indicating that the month-long suspension of the travel agency has been lifted. From the plethora of informative stories this week, readers enunciate retaining that Cameroonians feted the 51st National Day on May 20.
Thank you a lot, Yoti. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just tuning in, this is Press Hour and we are broadcasting live from the CRTV Production Center in Balatu, Yaoundé. Our topic for today is national unity. What pillars for better future? What are those pillars that we can build a stronger country? How do we make our future a better place? That is our topic as it is stated and as it is explained. I introduced the panel and Yoti just ended the newspaper review with what the theme of the National Day for 2023 was. And I repeat it here because she didn't say it in full. Defense forces and Cameroonian people in harmony to safeguard peace and national unity, bedrock of a strong and prosperous Cameroon. We are going to start from that. It is an event that happened just yesterday. It was a culmination of so many activities and Cameroon. Yesterday, talking about yesterday, I'm talking about Saturday, May 20. You lived that event with me, Mr. Full Jonathan.
Yes.
A successful event,
of course,
by all standards.
Of course, 20th May this year was a very, very successful event. And you know that many Cameroonians have been wishing to celebrate the way they celebrated this year because of the COVID-19 crisis, major manifestations, and particularly the 20th May celebrations could not take place. But this time, the COVID crisis are over, and the government has started to open up the celebrations. And you will see the enthusiasm, you will see the jubilation, the joy in Cameroonians as they went out yesterday to celebrate this day. We could see them go out in their numbers at the 20th May Avenue in Yaoundé. We could see them at the Unity Palace, all smiling and happy to be the guest to the national president, to the President of the Republic, and the wife. We equally witnessed what happened on the field. Most of the pictures that come, we discover that the celebrations were live, even in areas where we didn't expect, like in some parts of the northwest and southwest regions. We saw that all the subdivisions could at least come out to be able to celebrate. So we think that this celebration this year was a huge success. In fact, Cameroonians are accepting and recognizing that we need to be united, that we need to be peaceful for us to be able to achieve the development of our country.
Thank you. And I want to, when you say that, go back to the quote that I started the program with from Mahatma Gandhi. He said that for unity to be real, it must stand the severest strain without breaking. Maybe this is the time of the severest strain in our unity that we are standing. Yes, now I go to you, Isidore. You did well to mention the different generations that I've invited on the set. After Mr. Fu Jonathan, I am coming to you to ask, you witnessed the National Day celebration, May 20. What comments did you come back with?
Well, the only comment I have is that the 20th May was quite good, and it was normal to respect tradition of celebrating 20th May because it's an established tradition in Cameroon. But my only fear was in some areas it wasn't celebrated as Mr. Fujo said, because there are still boys in the bushes begging for separation, which is not unity. There are still people with hate speech, who are propagating hate speech and xenophobic utterances. There are still people who believe that tribalism or tribesmen should be principal customer into public offices. There are still people running out of the country because of push factors. That alone cannot be called unity. If unity means coming together, I believe that we should inculcate some moral values onto our generation and the people living. We should inculcate some principle or basic rubrics that will be able to bind us together, because when people are fighting, it means that there is no unity. When people are living in fear in the resting zone, it means that there is no unity, because if there is unity, there won't be any fear. So it means that we should redesign the bond that will bind us together, that we're living in peace, and we question ourselves what is happening today and what can we do to come out of this issue.
Exactly. I hope you've taken notes and you have taken the different words that we have to use to build that bond. I'm talking about pillars or building blocks that can make us actually stand strong as a united country. That's exactly what we're talking about. Now, Professor Zengwa, you obviously took part in the celebration in one way or another as a Cameroonian. Tell us.
Yeah, I think a National Day is something worth celebrating, and permit me say that it was celebrated all around the country. But let me emphasize that the greatness of the celebration this time around was not only because of COVID, but because maybe the fightings in the ground in some of the regions, the northwest and southwest regions, has dwindled down a bit. But let me be able to say very concretely that we should talk national unity, which is inclusive national unity, because it is very clear that if one part of somebody's body is at pain, the whole body should feel the pain and try to relieve it. It is no news that we had some explosions somewhere. There is no news that there are people who are considering national unity, who are feeling a very bitter pill of the national unity. I think what we should be thinking, like you say, talking about the pillars, the leadership of this country, the politicians of this country,
we'll come to the pillars and then we develop them. Yeah.
Every Tom, Dick and Harry is supposed to be a vector of putting the pillars at place, while considering the grievances of those who are not celebrating. Remember, there were calls also, while we are talking about national unity, there were also calls from dissenting voices that people should boycott this. And I think that as Cameroonians, we should be able to also look into those people who are declining the idea of celebrating a national day. Why are they refusing such a celebration? How can we bring them back to the limelight in a very peaceful manner? Not a victor take it all, because we seem to be in a situation where we have clamped down on a particular idea, and any least celebration with people who have no choice, because some of the people have no choice. They just need to come out, maybe because of hunger, maybe because of they are seeing people in their villages for the first time after about 6 years. They come out to celebrate, but profoundly are they celebrating?
Okay, the question is there. It's a rhetorical question, and I'm going to go to Lucas Teneng. You also, I want to, as a Cameroonian, you celebrated or you are involved in the activities in one way or the other. Tell us what you took back from the celebration.
Kilian, I was happy that this year the National Day was something different. Something different in that in areas that I was particularly afraid people would not come out, people came out. As Prof has said here, coming out and coming together is one thing, but coming together for one purpose, for the same purpose, is another thing. He was saying maybe some people were just coerced to come out, but the issue is at least they came out. And when they come out, we are now looking for ways to inculcate, as he was saying, to inculcate the notion of peace, to tell them that, okay, when you come out, it is because of this. You know that I've realized something in Cameroon. You see, there are symbols of national unity. Meanwhile, Cameroonians don't even know the symbols of national unity. Cameroonians don't respect the flag. Cameroonians don't even, we sing the national anthem, we don't even know the meaning of the national anthem. These are things, these are the basics that we are supposed to inculcate in our children. They know what the flag stands for. They know that green stands for this, red stands for this, yellow stands for this. When once people come out with that patriotism, when it is inborn, other things fall together. When we say unity, it doesn't mean, unity means bringing two things together. And the two things still have their uniqueness. If you take away the uniqueness of the two things, that is, you will start assimilating. So we have to talk about national unity, but at the same time, we maintain the uniqueness of each entity that came for unity. So now, when we talk about that such type of national unity, we talk about unity of identity, we talk about unity of purpose, and unity of direction. Because if we don't have a unity of identity, you identify yourself, I identify myself, but we agree that we together, that is unity of identity. Now we have a unity of purpose. What is the purpose? Why are we together? Because we can be together, we can have the same purpose but go in different directions. Take for instance, the political parties are here, all of them have a purpose of winning power, taking power. But they go different directions. But it will have that purpose, it will have unity of identity, that you could recognize my identity, I recognize your identity, cultural differences, ethnicity, we recognize that. And they will have unity of purpose. We want to be our nation, Cameroon. We must now have a unity of direction. All of us should look at the same direction. What are we doing to further the country? What are we doing to make our democracy tenable? What are we doing to make our development tenable?
Exactly, that is the focus our discussion. Professor Zengwa asked a question. We're going to look for the answers to that question on this set. The question you are asking is also the question that prompted us to come up with this topic, and you are going to answer that question. Together we are going to answer that question. Now I just give you the last word. You are an elite. I introduced you of Santa in the Northwest. You are even an elite of the Northwest, generally speaking. But you are also an elite of some clan, a clan in the central region. Tell us how that is possible.
Yes, Kilian, we're here to talk about national unity, and this is a project that has been on since 1972. The former president of this country was a cornerstone in his policy, and President Paul Biya today is accelerating the efforts towards national unity. And I want to say we even going beyond national unity to talk about national integration, which means that the Cameroonians as a whole should have that sense of belonging to one nation. Somebody talk about the flag here, somebody talk about national anthem. It means that we belong to that nation, that a Cameroonian should feel free and comfortable in any part of this country. And even before I get back to your question, I think we should equally look at this unity as a national issue, that it touches the four corners of this country. We may not limit it to two entities. I think every part of this country, we talk of national unity, we mean from the north to the south, from the east to the west, all Cameroonians put together, because we have the ethnic diversity, the religious, cultural diversities, which make Cameroon a specific and special country. So it is within that context that I find myself in here in the center, in Mefu-Akono, more precisely in Bikok, where I have some property there, land, and the population of Esazok have accepted me like their son. Ndifon of that village has even made me his first notable. I am part of their meeting, the funds, they have their meeting, the Association of Funds of Esazok, where I am part of their meeting. The party, they have a subsection there, where I'm an advisor to that subsection.
That's interesting.
Yes, so I live in that part of this country without any problem, and I feel very free, comfortable, accepted by the people. This is just an example of what we're looking for in this country, and if we can have this spirit and reinforce it, that a Cameroonian is free and comfortable in any part of this country, then we are talking of national unity, and our cultural diversity, the heterogeneous nature of our country, with so many religions, so many ethnic groups, should be some sort of riches for us. Our bilingual nature in our country should be should be an advantage for this country. So we are talking about unity in diversity, which is a special case even in the world.
Thank you very much. I think this time we are going to go into what are those pillars. We're looking at the building blocks. What do we have to make sure that there are no cracks? Mentioned by Lucas, mentioned by Prof. Zengwa, mentioned also by Isidore, and I know that our guests, Dr. Flo Jonathan, also accepts that what they are saying exists in Cameroon. What are the building blocks? What are the pillars that we can use to build a better Cameroon from where we are, with dissenting voices, with so many other problems that we are facing? I want to start with our able professor, Professor Zengwa.
Well, thank you very much. You permit me to go back a bit, a few seconds. We cannot be talking the building blocks without saying what national unity actually is. Let me note very clearly, how did it come, where did that expression come from? Let me note that at independence, most African countries adopted policy options in order to maintain internal cohesion amongst their various diversities. Cameroon's President Amadou Ahidjo adopted that policy of national unity in the first place. And he was very clear when he visited Ndah the first time to say the Cameroonian nation should be in such a way that there should be no Bamidekos, no Basas, no other particular ethnic group, and that every entity, every individual had the right to settle and feel free wherever he found himself.
The nation, the notion of nationhood.
The notion of nationhood. But let me note that it was much more concretized after reunification, with a special recognition of another entity, and that entity was the West Cameroon. So we were talking about cohesion amongst the different ethnic groups, 250, the different 280 linguistic cleavages, and the 2 internationally, that's former UN trust territories. So this had to be considered. And I think that he had some flaws, and the current president said, okay, we can move away from national unity to national integration, which was, I mean, a much more profound way of promoting unity in diversity. These are the origins of those 2 notions. The question is, well, were these notions practically implemented? Let me say, you hush or hurry me into the pillars without doing some basic analysis. Okay. Let me say this. I've just come back from the territory, visiting for the past, since June last year. I've visited almost every division in the country to do research, to do an evaluation of national unity, to do an evaluation of the conflict situations in all the 10 regions, in all the 58 divisions in this country. And I come back with an impression that national unity, national integration is just lip service, especially when you measure the degree of hate speech that is spoken everywhere in this country. You get to the east, to Gadi, you get the degree of hate speech there amongst the peoples. You get to Tombel, you get the degree of hate speech, you get all over the country. That can get us go to the pillars. People must be able to understand. Recently, you're even embarrassed at the people, what some elite, I don't want the word elite, I really don't, what they say, the hate speech, the degree of hate speech. So I learned there to say one of the greatest pillars against this hate speech issue is that fortunately there is a body which has been put in place, the National Commission for Bilingualism
and Multiculturalism, for the promotion of bilingualism
and multiculturalism.
Yes.
It means that commission should also check the excesses of hate speech, because hate speech generally denies the existence or undermines the others. The issue is that that body should be given extra powers or additional powers to inject punitive measures against hate speech. So that is one of the pillars.
Yes,
we say everything, anyhow, any day, anywhere.
I stay with you talking about the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism. After having noticed the increasing nature of hate speech, had a joint press conference with the Ministry of Communication and that of Territorial Administration, and they have promised everyone who generates or promotes hate speech that the law is there to catch them and sanction them. For that, let Prof just finish. He was developing, that was his first point. I break just to make that comment.
I am glad they can have a press conference on that, but press conferences are not enough. Because, like I just said, what we experience in the field is much more alarming. I think civil society organizations, those bodies should empower civil society organizations to actually take people to court.
Okay.
And actually sanction. That is a pillar. The second thing that I think would be a pillar is the continuous peace building. We have insisted on peace building, which is putting together all the parameters to roll back conflict situations. Is Cameroon in conflict situation? I say yes. We have the very clear secessionist conflict of the Northwest and Southwest region. We have the Boko Haram phenomenon in the extreme North region. We have some very serious conflicts over mineral resources in the East region, which is spoken very little about. We have the issue, religious issue, which is not spoken much about, especially in the far north, generally all over the country. So I think that it is incumbent to engage in practical, continuous peace-building mechanism in some sort of a bottom-up approach, broad-based participation in peace-building in all the regions. And permit me say that, unfortunately, politicians are not letting peace builders carry on their works, because politicians are found everywhere. They are politicians, they are contractors, they are peace builders, they are teachers, they are everywhere. I think that there are people who have been trained in peace building, who should be brought out now and given the opportunity to engage in practical peace building in all the communities. We can cite some. Tumfo Barrister Nico Hale is there. We can cite some. I mean, there are many civil society organizations.
Thank you.
Which can
thank you very much.
Implement peace building.
Yes, I take that advantage. And Tumfo Nico Hale is someone we all acknowledge for his peace crusading, and that's what someone who has had over 100 prizes for crusading peace around the world.
Well,
yes, Lucas.
He has 168.
168.
But that is not.
We should be able to add it to those people.
But that is not even. You don't need to be somewhere before you help your country. Before you be your country.
Yes.
You don't need to be a minister. You don't need to be a director. You just need to act, because peace building, like he was saying, equally like unity, there must be the willingness, and there must be the action. We spend a lot of time doing sloganeering. We do slogans, we throw slogans. Those slogans don't help if we don't have the willingness and we don't move the actions. As Prophet was saying, we see people talk about hate speech and they say they're going to sanction them. The problem is not that we don't have the laws. The laws are existing. But who are those who are going to implement the laws? The problem in Cameroon is not that we don't have laws. The problem in Cameroon is not that we have the good laws. But the laws must be implemented by people. So the problem is the mindset of most Cameroonians. We think when we have something, we say, what is my gain from here? What do I gain from here? We forget about the others. We forget about the Commonwealth. Let me tell you something, Kilian. When I attended secondary school, I was with classmates that were clamoring to go to Britain. And their parents wanted to send them to Britain because they wanted to go to Britain, improve on their education, come back and work. In the 90s, the trend changed. They went and came back and were working. And the others, the trend changed. People were going to Europe. By then, were people who were jobless, hopeless, and frustrated. So the trend changed. What changed this trend? The enabling environment was no longer there because some few elite, I put elite in quote, so some few elite or some few people thought Cameroon was for them. And when once people don't believe, people don't belong. If I don't belong, you owe no obligation when you derive no benefit, right? When people don't belong, when people think that they don't belong, like most of the guys who go up, they ask them to come back and they go and pick them at the airport and want them to sing national anthem. Did they love Cameroon for living?
Now, Lucas, on that point, that's why we are here. Suggest what we should do, use that as a pillar. How do we make those people who feel they don't belong to belong? Yes,
Kilian, this is what I'm saying. We need to create an enabling environment. We need to create an enabling environment. A Lucas who is sitting here, who is nobody, my son or my daughter should be able to compete in any competitive entrance examination and go in without necessarily any influence peddling. The country is not reserved just for some particular people. When you take some particular competitive entrance examinations, you see some particular names. It's a trend. So they will perpetrate. When they perpetrate through hatred. Others will feel that they don't belong. If you see somebody, a Trump say go and sit, maybe left university and things are not moving, you say go and sit for the competitive entrance examination to end. Say no, I will not go, because he thinks that he cannot make it, because the others who are there have gone there, have made people think that it is only reserved for some particular people. So how do we make Cameroonians understand that the son of a father, the son of a farmer, the son of a Bayam-Selam, the daughter of a Bayam-Selam can aspire for anything and have it as a birthright, not as a privilege? Well, we should just note that even if it is generalized, we have particular cases. We have people who have gone in for public exams without any influence, and with their intelligence, I can say this and look at myself in the mirror and say, well, even if you have so many cases, there are still cases where you write your exam and you pass without any intervention in this country. That is the truth. Yes, Prof, you want just 1 minute before I go to...
No, not up to 1 minute.
Yeah, that is better.
You talked about a building block. My strong recommendation for a building block is that practical politicians, partisan politicians, should clear the way and allow civil society engage in peace building to reconcile the different communities and the different peoples who are at war. I think the politicians should take that very serious and stop being at the forefront of everything, because they are the politicians, they are the peace builders, they are the lecturers in universities, they are teachers, they are contractors. Just to summarize what he said, there are some Cameroonians, especially politicians, who think that the country belongs to them.
Prof, there is a problem in the point you're making. Civil society is not supposed to sit and wait for politicians to allow them go.
The politicians did not send me around the country. I just talked about going around the country. I'm an elite of Zamai, or the extreme north region. I was recognized because of my contribution in peace building there.
Yes.
You just talked about elite.
Yes.
And this is my brother, an elite from the northwest region.
Yes.
Let me define an elite by that definition. I'm not an elite from the northwest region, because by that definition, an elite is only somebody who belongs to the ruling CPDM. I am not only an elite, I think that I'm an example of an elite from my division, from my region of this country. But by that division, by that definition of elite in the northwest region, I am not. What we are saying is that they should make a broad-based approach of who an elite is. Who can make, to me, an elite is anybody from a particular region who has acquired knowledge and has to use that knowledge at the service of the community without discrimination.
Yes.
All politicians go to carry on their activities with discrimination, because if you belong to any political party, you have no right to gain any favors from them.
Yes, I agree with you, but if I were to suggest, I would say an elite is anyone who is a leader, and a leader is someone who influences, who can influence people. Yeah, thank you.
No, Mr. Kilian, we have never been invited or taken part or even permitted to take part in any. I come from Northwest. I've never been permitted or allowed to take part in any meeting of Northwest elite.
Can I refuse?
Because
I cannot.
that is what we are saying.
Well, I'm also saying
that we must be able to explain.
There are business persons who are considered elite.
Of course, because of their contribution. And because they toe the line. Some of us have decided not to belong to any political party. We are not considered as elite, no matter maybe the level of education and experience we have, no matter maybe the royalty we have. We are not. It's not about us.
So what will you envy being an elite, recognized in your place, than being the prof you are?
It is not about me.
Recognized
it
around
is not
the world.
about me.
You are a seasoned.
I want to feel recognized within my community, and I'm given the opportunity to construct. I'm an expert in peace building.
Yes. There
is no time. If I go to the field in Northwest to do peace building, the politicians rather think that I am threatening their positions.
Okay.
That is what civil society activists face in the field.
Yes, the point you are making, many people know that is happening in many areas. I just wanted to hold you up to that position. Yes, Dr. Fru Jonathan.
To educate the public.
Yes.
And I respect the position of my eminent professor. And I'm afraid we may get mixed up with the question of elite, the question of politician, the question of business people and so on. Because the politician is first of all an elite. All our politicians, and most of them are elite, who are some of them university professors, some engineers and so on, who are working on the field. So we should not behave as if a politician is somebody who is put aside.
No.
And let me say, we're talking here about unity, we're talking about peace. And I'm afraid that there may be some questions put on the idea of unity or idea of peace. No, we have all accepted that unity is effective in our country. And as far as peace building is concerned, it is ongoing. I say this because I have examples I can quote. The regional assemblies, the Northwest and Southwest, recently were involved in the peace building. And I can bet you that I was present like an elite and like an actor in the...
Like a CPDA militant.
In all those capacities.
No, one must belong to a party or an association somewhere.
Yes, so we followed up the process. The project was well developed by some university professors who helped the regional president to come up with the framework. And this was now presented to the representatives of the people who elaborated on it and now went on to the phase of implementation. And this implementation was done in each division. There were peace building teams that were sent down to carry out peace building activities, and which is continuing up to today. It may not be possible to involve everybody in the process, but let us admit that there are people who are going on with that activity. And if Professor, for instance, can take the initiative like a civil society to go out on its own, I think it's an initiative that we have to hail and congratulate him for it. The people who are on the field, they are our local administrators, the regional assembly and so on. They are just waiting for people like them to come up with specific projects in the domain of peace building or whatever project that can help develop our regions. In fact, the truth is that today the decentralization in our country is effective. Power is being devolved down to the base. It is giving opportunity to our populations to participate in their own development. And this population, we are the ones, because we are elites from various areas. We can fall back and assist the authorities in terms of ideas, in terms of what any form of contribution to ensure that the development process goes on and then the peace process is effective.
I don't think that I take that very, very kindly, because I don't know, when you say, I consider it even an insult when we say that the regional council have constituted some people and sent to every division. I come from Mentum division. I don't know whether those commissions called people like Nico Hale with their hundreds of certificates and recognition and peace to say, do you propose something? Who are those professors who sat in a room and came out with someone who have never been seen on the field? What we are trying to say is this: we should be able to be inclusive and get to experts. When we want to talk about peace building, they are experts. When we want to talk about politicians, they are experts. When we talk about engineers, they are experts. So get the different people involved.
Those who don't get were peace experts.
No,
I don't. That
well, as far as this country is concerned, we have them in numbers, in fingers.
Well,
right. So and we know them. We know who is a peace
If
expert.
some people are not involved, it doesn't mean that those who went, they were not qualified.
No, we are not saying anybody is not
It's important for us to verify. It's good, Professor, to go to the field and meet the regional president, for instance, and ask him how his process is going on. He will give you the details, and you can correct. You can make your input.
Yes, there are initiatives that Press R is taking. We should not be talking about the president of the regional assemblies of the Northwest and Southwest. We are taking initiatives to bring them. We want to wish them a happy weekend and a good beginning of a new week. We're going to bring them here to tell us
Effectively.
yes, what they are doing. Because sometimes when we sit here, we don't know what is happening out there.
Of course.
Without saying that what Prof is saying is not founded, we want them to come here, and I trust them. They are going to tell us exactly what's happening. Before we come to you, Isidore, this morning, after the celebration of yesterday, and after having come up with this topic, we got in touch with Honorable Oliver, who is an honorable person based in Tuba in Bamenda. He is still in Bamenda right now after celebrating the National Day. We asked him this morning what he thinks that they should be as building blocks to national unity. Yes, if we can get that feed, then we'll share with you.
I think we all need to understand what it means, and we all need to keep aside selfish ideas, and we all need to demonstrate love at all times. We all need to have a national agenda for this country. We should desist from insular parochial mindset of always thinking about where we come from and things that stands to benefit us as individuals. But we should consider the general welfare of Cameroonians as a whole. And we should learn from the head of state, who holds the idea of national unity, national integration, and harmonious living together in very high extremes, very high levels. We of the younger generation believes that the future of this country stands so strong and so promising if our living together, national unity and national integration are the virtues and values of everything that we do. And I strongly believe that if we can give value to our national unity, by making our national integration visible in various activities. We could even do something that I call a National Integration Service that gives opportunity to young people upon graduating from the university or from professionals or higher institutions. Like you see in other countries, like in Nigeria, you see the National Youth Service. We could also call our own here National Integration Service. That gives opportunity to our young graduates that you are not allowed to work in your region where you come from, but you are given the opportunity to go and work in another region. That way, it will take away the sentiment of selfishness, the sentiment of wanting to think only about your local community.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ago Oliver, who answered from Bamenda this morning. We got that interview, that reaction this morning after celebrating yesterday. Thank you very much. Isidore, it was your turn to give us the building blocks to make our country a better place.
I think that if we must come out of this quagmire to promote peace, cohesion and unity, Cameroonians must stop killing Cameroonians. That's the first thing, because when you kill, you call for revenge. Others will still come after you. We should eliminate the aspect of tribalism, because in this country, tribalism seems to be the order of the day. We should equally put an end to intertribal conflict, hate speech, and of course, some sanity measures should be put into the system, because it's like a kind of a rotten system where I kill you, I fight you, it becomes normal, and we just sing in the radio that, okay, this one have done this, one have done that. So we should be able to promote some spirit of patriotism to Cameroonians.
Yes, Isidore, you have named what we've been naming. Those things were also named here. How do we do that? Take one point and tell us how we should do that from the points you have named.
And I think that if I should take one thing here that will promote unity and peace, is that of tribalism.
How do we do that? That is the problem.
I think that people should be able to know that we are all citizens in the country. Cameroon doesn't belong to a particular group of people, and we should have equal opportunity.
How do we do that? We
should do that by constantly reminding and inculcating these values and these views on our youth and all Cameroonians to know that tribalism it should not be practiced at all.
We have this policy of regional balance that is meant to kill tribalism.
Regional balance, in my observation, is just a kind of a theory, because when you see go to regional balance, you see fights on men in public competitive entrance or into services that do not actually merit it. The names keep all coming from one particular area, so we should eliminate that.
Okay, we're going to go back to Lucas, who started talking about people with integrity. Lucas, when you call for people with integrity, yes, we understand that. So how do we make people with integrity be part of the building blocks, part of the pillars to build a better Cameroon?
Kilian, before I come to that, I will go back to what Honorable Oliver has said. You see, it has piqued my mind. This issue of voluntary service for young graduates can be a very good idea. That young graduates, after graduating, you do voluntary service in places that don't belong, that are not your backyard. That makes you at least to learn the culture, to be tolerant to other cultures and the rest, and to know that you can work anywhere or everywhere in Cameroon. Because there's some particular places, when you send somebody to go and work in the family, it's as if it is punitive transfers. No, we are Cameroonians and we should be able to work everywhere. So that idea of inculcating this general service or integrating service to young people is a good one. Then let me come back to this issue of integrity. There are people who have integrity. And if they call me, if Prof here, they say, Prof, do this, and I cannot do it for 51 years, I should give way for somebody else. I should give way to people.
Should you wait for 51 years? If you fail, even in 1 week.
People have failed in 51 years. People have failed in 51 years and they're still there. You want me to call names? What we are saying is that there are some people we know. We know them because of what they have proven. They are not ministers, but they have helped impact society. They are not politicians, but they have helped impact society. Professor Zengwa sitting here, he's a professor. You only hear that Professor Zengwa. I think the highest place I know about Professor Zengwa that I can see Kilian Ndifon invites him to press us. Apart from press R here, Dr. Zengwa, you can only see him circumscribed in the classroom. So, must he fight to belong to a political party in order to...
The answer is no. I see that with you. Fortunately for Professor Zengwa, his classroom is international. You find him in the US, in so many places, going round and round. Now, if you have finished,
there's one point I wanted to make. You see, we can build on our diaspora population. Let me show you how we can build on them. Most of them left the country frustrated. Some of them left frustrated. But the remittance they have sent back home has helped build infrastructure. Now, what they are now doing is they are trying to make more people live. Because why? They say our doing business environment is not good. Government is improving on that. Most of them are making a lot of money out there.
Yes, they want to come back and invest. Yes.
So if we can permit them come back and they invest and will not be killed by taxation, most of them will come back. And when 1, 2, 3 come back and succeed, others will say,
will follow, yes.
Others will say, if this people went home and succeeded, why can't we go back? Because you see, the division in Northwest, Southwest is being foiled by those who are out there. They have the money, they have the leisure, they have the time, and they instrumentalize young people here. They radicalize because somebody who gets up. Like, let me give you an example. When I went up far north about Boko Haram, I saw a child who has practically nothing. He goes to the farm and comes back in the evening. Imagine that you propose 200,000 francs to him and a motorcycle. What becomes of him? He becomes... You say, okay, so I can do this and have this.
Yes, thank you very much, Lucas, talking about the diaspora. Very interesting and very important point there. Some people ask me why I invite Professor Victor Mbareka to this set all the time. That's someone who virtually has 2 permanent residents, one in the US, one in Cameroon, and he was on set last week. He is here and he has invested in this country. There are so many others who have done that. That's why I buy that point, and we want so many of them to follow. We want him to pull, others come back. Now, Prof, one of the points that we made here when you were enumerating what we should do, you insinuated, you talked about stronger institutions without talking about it that way. I think that we should empower more our institutions in such a way that the law should be hard on whoever indiscriminately does something wrong.
You're very right. We have many of those institutions which have been put in place to resolve the identified problems. One of them will be the DDR. The question is, what powers? While the DDR is doing its best, let me say something. Sometimes that is one of the setup that I appreciate very much, because I always try to imagine if there was no DDR, how many more youths would have been killed.
Exactly.
And to think that that structure exists is wonderful. And if the leadership of that structure is given sufficient powers to convince the young people to drop their guns and they are practically catered for, then we are going to see people being dissatisfied. I mean, not being satisfied being in the bushes. I think that is what I have to chip as far as that is concerned. All the institutions should be given the means to carry on their activities without any much ado. And I think that the President of the Republic is the key to all the institutions. And when I say the President of the Republic is the key, I am talking about an acceptable, genuine, inclusive dialogue that he can order. A question, to the best of my appreciation, I don't see any reason why the Sisekos are in prison, the Abdul Karims, all of those. Let us understand that so long as those people stay in prison, they are followers. And these followers are going to continuously perturb the interests of national unity.
We were just talking about institutions.
Yes.
But if anyone breaks the law, the prison awaits them.
Of course. And what we are saying is that we want to, please, let's not assume that it is the winner vanquish approach in solving the current crisis in the Northwest and Southwest region, particularly to that. What we are saying as far as that is concerned is that if these people are released and we get genuine dialogue, and maybe they are forgiven, and new status are crafted for them. I know we are talking about some rules, some advantages, and so on.
Yes.
I think the rule, a revised constitution with each single entity having a fair share of the national. Okay, let's stop talking about national unity.
Thank you, Prof.
Let's talk about practical involvement.
We have about 2 minutes to go. And,
the national unity.
Yes. Just to say, I appreciate the national coordinator of the DDR, Mr. Fayengo Francis.
Of course.
Whom every Cameroonian should know that is a courageous person, and it has helped so many Cameroonians. The centers are being built around the country, especially in those areas affected, to bring out those people who are our brothers and sisters to change, come, and then get reintegrated.
He is a wonderful man. He should be given more opportunities and more powers and more means.
Yes, you're talking about the legal framework,
yes,
and how it should be implemented. Maybe before I comment on that, let me say, since we're talking about pillars, one of the major pillars is love and patriotism.
Yeah.
I think that as Cameroonians, we must learn to love our country. I say this because we've had examples on this table where we have our diaspora who don't want to invest because they have a very negative picture of the nation. Some of them who may not have spent any time in Cameroon, who don't know what is happening, but they continue to paint a negative picture. So if Cameroonians can accept that this country is a beautiful country, there's a country where we have a lot of potential in all the domains, in agriculture, in minerals and so on, and that we can grow in Cameroon, and that there are people who have done business in Cameroon and succeeded. So it's not correct to see the cup permanently half full. Sometimes we see it.
We should see it half full.
Half full,
not half empty.
Not half empty.
Exactly.
So, but I would say the first thing that the government does is to put in place a legal framework.
I even want to interrupt. Anyone who sees the cup half empty should not drink.
Should not drink.
Because you're empty completely.
So, as I say, we all admit that the legal framework is there. The institutions have been put in place to help us get unity, to get peace, and so on. Professor is quoting the DDR. We have the decentralization laws, which were reformed in recently. We have the constitution that was reformed in 1996. All these are the legal framework that has been put in place, and its implementation is already effective, because if you go and look
all the provisions of the 1996 constitution have been put in place.
Of course, they have been put in place.
You see,
that is a fact.
No.
It's a fact.
No, it's not a fact.
They have been put in place.
How many have declared their property?
No, put in place means that it is there functioning.
The institutions that were previewed by 1996 constitution have been put in place.
Yes, the institution.
But the provisions of the 1996 constitution have not been.
Let me tell you,
they may not be implemented, but they are there. That's what we are talking
about. And the implementation, you must admit that it's a process. You understand? That's why when the law is put in place, we talk of decrees of application to precise these laws. The laws of 1996 are, if the institutions are in place, and then their implementation process is going on, because you can see effective decentralization being carried out with concrete examples.
It's only have seen a legislation, right? It has to be implemented progressively.
Of course. If
we are talking about 1996 constitution,
you cannot
today in 2000.
It has taken time, but it has been.
We are saying that all the institutions are in place.
What does that mean? What does that mean? We are not serious there.
We are already eating into the time of Tam Tam Weekend.
Yeah.
The program that is coming up.
The problem with Cameroon is that we have the best laws, we have the best institutions, but applicability is near zero. So we want concrete actions on the ground. All of those laws mean nothing to me.
We can give you concrete actions.
We take that as a pillar. Yes, just 30 seconds, please.
If you want to look at decentralization, do you know that today every council, local council in this country, has 100 million every year for to run the council activities. Do you know that
From the ministry,
Unfortunately, the mayor is dependent
from the
on
ministry.
do you know that credits are transferred for road maintenance every year
all of
up
those
to
people,
about 27 million every year?
right?
Do you know
those people are dependent on somebody who's
Thank you.
They are not.
from the
They are not.
center. It is the duo who decides.
They have their
He is the
pockets.
vote holder.
Thank you very much. We cannot continue to abuse.
We want the
camera.
mayor
We
to
have,
have the right
gentlemen,
to implement his
thank you.
budget without interference.
Isidore, thank you. You made so many good points. Isidore Parcom is a researcher, civil society actor. We have Dr. Fru Jonathan, who is an elite of the Northwest. He's also an elite of Isazok in the Center region. He is the Deputy Director General of Sonamin. He is also, yes, he is okay. He's also the chargé de mission of the CPDM Central Committee. We have Professor Zengwa Willie Broad, who is a professor, but he's right, and he has so many. He's the prince that you see him. He says that he is the top prince of his clan.
I'm just a prince of my community. I'm
Yes.
a prince of Zamai, an elite of Zamai in the Extreme North region.
Thank you all around the country. That's what we're talking
national
about.
integration.
That's national integration. Thank you very much, Lucas Tenning, Chairfor, who is the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Reporter newspaper. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. If you missed anything in this program, just tune in on Monday at 2:30 and you have a full broadcast of the program. Thank you once again for your time.